Good morning, I'm Barney Yaskowitz, Greensboro, North Carolina, and we're here at Goodguys car show. Brought a 66 Chevy 2 Super Sport, and we're proud of it. We bought it new. My wife and I carried our children to kindergarten in it, and we still have it.
I'm Barbara, Barney's wife.
And I'm Barry, their son.
All right, Barry was very instrumental in getting the restoration done on it. It was sitting in the shelter, sort of.
This Chevy 2 changed body styles this particular year in '66, and we had an earlier '62 in our marriage, but it was a 6-cylinder. But when these came out, the Chevelles came out at the same time, and all my buddies were wanting the SS 396s, but we kind of fell in love with this. More, I reckon I pushed that more than my wife did, because we didn't even see one before we ordered it. We just ordered it sight unseen, and it's 350 horse, 327, close ratio, 4-speed, positive traction.
Well, when Barney decided to buy this car, it was like he said, it was sight unseen, and I had no idea what we were getting. We had always had black vehicles, and I didn't want a black vehicle, so he decided on the Marina Blue for my benefit. When he brought it home, it was an okay car. It was better than what we had been driving at the time. Much better. But we were a young couple, had a young family, and really didn't have the funds to buy a car of this caliber at the time. But as it turns out, we're glad we did.
But later on, I was working around a bunch of guys that like cars, and they were, one of them's daddy owned a Pontiac dealership in Greensboro. And he told me, he said, the only thing you need in that car is just a set of gears and tires and headers, and you'll be set. Says there's nothing can get in your way. So I asked Barbara about that, but she really wasn't encouraged about me putting headers on the car. So they were having powder puff derby at the drag strip one Sunday, so I talked her into going down there, and I wanted to see what the car was going to do. I took her as an afterthought, kind of, but. There wasn't anybody in our class. We was running a stock of all things, running against a Chrysler Hemi. So there wasn't a Hemi there that day, so I was the only car in a stock. But they ran some super stock Chevelles, and one guy, he was illegal, pulled the front end off the ground when he dragged it. He ran us and outran us. Well, when the powder puff derby came along, that a little bit later on, they wanted all the women to get in there. Well, this girl, that her husband owned this Chevelle, she drove against Barbara. And of course, we got mopped up pretty good. And but this girl lived in the neighborhood. So there was nothing else said. We were sorry we lost and all this, went home and put it behind us. Well, she went to work the next day, and this girl was bragging about how she outran us. So that day, I came home that night from work, and Barbara said, whatever you got to do to that car, you do it. So I ordered headers that night, and I put a dual point ignition in it and headers, and got some cheater slicks, and we went back down there and did right well. We didn't run that car again because they were in they had reclassed this car by then. So we had a good experience on it, and that was the only time, two times we've ever drug that car.
When Barry turned 16, we needed more of a family car, so we had bought a 73 Monte Carlo as our family car. So Barry was chomping at the bits to get 16 so he could take the Chevy 2 and drive it, which he did. It was still in good running condition then. And daughter would come home from school and say, Mama, Barry's racing that car. I said, oh, Barry wouldn't do that now. Yes, he is, Mama. But we had the tendency to believe him as opposed to her. And in the latter years, we found out it was the truth, that he was out racing the car and we didn't know about it.
Making some big changes in it.
Yeah, making some changes on it that we didn't know about at the time. After the restoration was completed and Barry brought it home, we've only driven it one time. And it was his wish that he and our daughter would be in the back seat and we'd drive it to church. And so we had a Sunday church going, and that's the only time we've driven it since it's been restored. And what? And it was Father's Day too.
About 5 years ago, we started the restoration on the car. Took about 2.5 years to put it back into the original condition that the car is in. The car has the original intake, carburetor, distributor, blockheads, transmission, rear end, all the numbers are matching on the vehicle. As you can see, there's correct overspray on the firewall, the correct overspray on the intake. All the hoses and all are correct time. They're not original, but they are correct for the vehicle. We had the interior done by Rick Kennedy in Greensboro, back to the original specifications. It's got the 4-speed Muncie M21 transmission, and the car actually came with a Saginaw shifter at the factory it was built at instead of the Muncie shifter, which makes this car kind of unique. The car is a super sport car, which basically is exterior trim work on it, the body panels, moldings along the bottom, like a super sport emblem on the glove box, the badging on the car. This was the Marina Blue, was actually just a super sport color in early '66. You could get the Marina Blue on other vehicles late in '66, but early on it was a super sport only color.
Well, this has been kind of a family adventure, and we're still not complete. It's always something you still need to do. But we might see you around the show once in a while. We plan to enter a couple of them, and we certainly enjoyed it here in Raleigh. And we went to Pennsylvania one time. Maybe we'll go back up there.